Oops. That's okay. Now we're live on YouTube. Oops. All right. Good. So now I need to pop out the chat and put the chat over here. But yeah, so and that's one of the other really important characteristics of power is that it doesn't have to protect itself because of the influence that a power has on the people in a culture and society. People in the culture and society will necessarily go out of their way to protect powers which exist. And this, maybe it was just in class that I was talking about this. I haven't talked about it on stream yet. But this has to do with, there's, a fundamental, what's it called? An axiom. There's a fundamental axiom that, humans assume about the society in which they find themselves, right? There's this axiom that people accept without judgment. And this axiom is that my society must be okay, right? Because my society exists in such a way that I am able to exist within it. And this becomes an unconscious thing that humans uncritically accept about the culture and society in which they find themselves. They assume that the things in that culture and society are good things because here I am, right? Here I am, so this must be a good culture and society, right? And the things in it must also be good. And because of this instinctive, this reflexive attitude that people have towards a culture and society in which they find themselves existing, right? This assumption is taken on. Now, people who find themselves in a minority class often identify this way first, and then later are trying to figure out why the culture and society, which is a good culture and society, is now trying to kill them, right? Why the police are brutalizing them, why they can't get jobs, why all of these things are true about them. And so there's this conflict. This is part of the E.B. Du Bois analysis of double consciousness, where the first structures that they attach themselves to, they naturally assume as good. And it's not until later in their lives that they start to recognize critically that the things in culture and society are actually trying to kill them. And then they have to grapple with that. And a lot of times people don't want to give up the assumptions that they've made about the culture and society and the things in that culture and society being good. Firefighters are trained in first aid, but no one uses their first aid skills to justify the existence of fire departments, right? What they do is clearly helpful and necessary on its own, right? Doesn't need any further, that's a really great contrast, Kayamatara, because with policing doesn't justify itself, actually. It needs to be protected in this kind of aggrandizing way. Or aggrandizing, yeah. In this a fantastic way, right? It's a lie. It has to promote this fantasy about itself, to justify its existence. Fire departments don't have to do that. We all understand that people, and think about this differently too. Right? What if firefighters were to join a firefighting team And as a part of their training, the firefighters are trained that some people you should go in and save, but some people are going to try to burn you. So you have to be cautious about these kind of people who are going to try to set you on fire while you're trying to do your job. And you need to spend all of your time being concerned about people trying to set you on fire and trying to burn you. Right? You as a firefighter would be like, shouldn't we just be worried about putting the fires out and helping people? Rather than, and so this is something that I often sometimes wonder about with people who, because I understand the idea of wanting to be a police officer. You're 17, 18 years old. You are given this sugar-coated fantasy about what policing is. But, after a few weeks in the academy, the illusion's over. Right? Once you start to do the job, there's no pretending. I've talked to police officers. Even police officers who think that their job is useful and helpful and worthwhile admit that their training teaches them to dehumanize the people that they are supposed to be serving and protecting. And that fear and learning how to protect yourself and insulate your friends and your other coworkers, your bosses and your other police officers from accountability, these are the top priorities. Protecting and insulating. These are the top priorities of how you're trained as a police officer. So if you signed up to do the job to help your community, why did you stay in the job? That's clearly not what you're doing. Why did you stay in the job? And this is why all cops are bad. There are no such thing as good cops. Because when you were being trained to do the job, at some point you would have gone, wait a minute, we are not serving and protecting the public. That's not what the job is. Because it's not. Like, unequivocally. I'm able to exist in a society, and that doesn't mean society is good. And see, and this is a realization that makes you unusual for being able to recognize. And it isn't that wild that it seems like it shouldn't be that difficult for people to just be able to recognize. And I think for disabled people, and we're going to have a longer conversation about this later, that I think that disabled people are in many ways much more sensitive and attuned to the ways in which society is designed to work against them, and against all of us, right? That culture and society is designed to work against us, the people in it. And that's a reality that is real. And I think that, that those people who are on the fringes of society and who, because of their material place, right? Their relative location, it's just so much more apparent to them. Exactly. Indigenous people understand colonialism inherently. White people can only see it through epiphany. Yes. Yes. That is a really good way to put it. And I would have to admit that is very true for my understanding of colonialism. For me, it was at first it was a few slow realizations, right? For me it began with sexism and gender, and coming to understand the ways that I had been programmed to be misogynistic without knowing, right? I thought that I was a fair and balanced person who treated everybody with the same kind of dignity, but I didn't. And I didn't find that out until I started to go to college, right? When I was in my mid-20s and I went to college, I had a college professor who introduced me to concepts like whitewashing and gaslighting. And the slow realization for me was sexism first, and the way that I was sexist. And a step behind, right, was the slow realization of just how racist a person that I was and had been, accidentally, right, with ignorantly and not knowing. That doesn't excuse the fact that I was racist, right? And so this is something that people should just be comfortable with. I'm saying I was racist, because people should be accustomed to hearing that kind of thing. Anybody who is really white presenting in a white supremacist society at some point has. Just accept it and move on, right? I'm not being ashamed about it. I'm not being hard on myself about it. I'm accepting the reality and understanding that there's some stuff that I need to do about that. And then it takes regular diligence. Yes, and that was the other thing that I was going to say, Jane, is as somebody myself who is clearly on the spectrum and is trans, it's become much easier for me to recognize the ways in which society has it out for me. But that has to do with the relative position in society as well, too. The more marginalized, and this has to do with standpoint theory. We haven't talked about that very much. I actually am a pretty big fan of standpoint theory, and I think it's very valuable. So if you're not familiar with it, with what standpoint theory is, that'll be some good homework for you later, to check that out and do a deep dive. It's pretty good stuff. But it does matter. Perspective matters a lot, which is why it's important for us to remember to listen to the voices of everybody else. And that's really the big theme that for today that we're driving towards is, a lot of this is, again, has to do with the article that Kaimatara just posted, about the disposability of minorities in leftist movements. And so that's going to be kind of the general theme that we're talking about today, or part of the general theme that we're talking about today. In our coalition building, in our movements, in our organizing, in our advocacy, we need to be mindful of this very important lesson, that the most marginalized among us in a group, in any given group, the most marginalized among us in any given group have the most perspective and insight to offer the rest of the group, always. And that the flip side of this is that we need to recognize that the way that culture and society has conditioned you is for you to want to look at the dominant theory, look at the dominant message, look at the dominant ideas, and coalesce around the dominant themes, when the most value in understanding our own existence, our own environment, our own organization, our own societies and cultures is to look to the most marginalized among us and to listen to their viewpoints, because they've got the most meaningful stuff to tell us about culture and society. The people that are here in the middle don't have anything meaningful to say about culture and society. They don't have any critiques, right? The people who are just ordinarily regular people, Joe Schmoes or Plain Jane, whoever these people are in the world, the automatons, the people who go to school and the school's programming worked, So now they never look up from their desk. They go to work, they do their task, they come home, they look at their screens until it's time to go home, or until it's time to go to bed. And then they wake up, and then they go to work, and they look at their desk, and then they go home, and they look at their screens, and then they go to bed. Right? Those people they make up a powerful contingent of culture and society. Most of the people in culture and society, and they don't have anything meaningful to say about it because they're busy looking down at their work and at their screens. They are living in a fantasy ideology, completely divorced from the material reality that the rest of us live in. That are actually trying to do stuff and change the world and trying to free Palestine and trying to get land back. All of us that are out here trying to make all this stink and all this noise. And elevate those voices that have been overshadowed unnecessarily. Absolutely. Elevating voices is 100% amplifying the voices of others. Is when I'm in the classroom and I'm talking about sexism and I'm talking about racism, I'm very clear about the fact that I am making no claims about the state of affairs of the world. When I'm talking about sexism and racism in the classroom, I'm amplifying the voices of marginalized people who are trying to share with you, the students. I'm trying to amplify the voices of people's experiences. Those people have lived experiences, and their lived experiences have been considered extremely valuable to lots of people who believe that those expressions adequately express their sentiments about their shared experiences of existence in a sexist, racist world, right? That I'm not making claims about sexism existing or about racism existing because I don't want my students to argue with me about those things in the classroom. That's a big fucking waste of everyone's time. Rather, I amplify the voices of people that have powerful things to say about their experiences of the world. And that framing, I think, really is helpful for the students, and it's helpful for actually pushing forward the ideas of trying to dismantle racism and sexism. There was a time when I first started. I don't think I would say I ever did a really bad job of talking about racism. But there have been times or there have been ways that I have presented the conversation about racism in the classroom that, looking back, now I realized I was centering my whiteness in the classroom, in the conversations that we were trying to have about race. Because rather than amplifying the voices of others, I was talking about how white people should be going around and trying to be awoke and to at least I can't really remember, but looking back, even as somebody who had studied for a long time and literally took classes on racism and race identity, read lots of books, still made lots of mistakes, still centered my own whiteness in those situations. Rather than elevating and amplifying the voices of other people, because that's the right approach. That's how we That's how we advocate, right? Rather than me going, hey, look at me, look at all of the books that I've read by Black authors, right? Instead of me saying, look at all the books that I've read by Black authors, I just say, look at all these fucking awesome Black authors. Read these people. Look at how awesome these authors are, right? And that completely changes the presentation. If we want to have true liberation, we need to have the voices of women, BIPOC, queer people, and disabled people. 100%. And that's where we are going to get truth. And that's where I think our leftist movements can be really, really powerful and really successful. So on that, this is a good time to shift gears, actually, I think. Real quick, I'm going to do a quick shill. If anybody would like to support the stream, it would be fantastic. I would very much appreciate it. If you subscribe to the channel, then you get all of the awesome emotes. I think my emotes are amazing, so but I'm biased. But as I talked about before, this is probably a much better way to support me. And thank you, Kai Matara, while you're here and I'm thinking about it, for support last stream. I really appreciate the donation to the coffee. If anybody would like to and is financially stable and able, I would really appreciate if you could contribute something to supporting the channel. And if not, that's also cool. I appreciate that you're here. Cool. Now, with that out of the way, I want to start talking about some of the stuff I want to talk about. As though I hadn't been talking about it the whole time. But you all know what I mean. Excuse me. This is where I want to begin, I think. So, right. This is a little bit of an aside. Let me go back to my face. This is a little bit of an aside, right? So, rather than going full circle, like I usually like to do, we're going to take a little detour off as a short aside, in this conversation, because there's a really big problem that we're about to have all across the United States. And I would like for us to start thinking about what we are going to do about the problem. The problem is that we are going to have hospitals and medical care facilities all across the United States, especially in the most vulnerable, most rural areas of the United States, are just going to start shutting down. This is a very real thing that nobody has figured out a way to prevent yet, and is going to begin happening at the end of this year, right? So I believe that the first parts of the Big Beautiful Bill will be implemented in October or November of this year, and so a lot of these hospitals and medical facilities are going to have a hard time paying their bills, especially at the hardest time of the year during the holidays, where they have more medical staff that are trying to take time off, and there is an insurgence of people who need the care. So it's a terrible time of year for the medical industry already. And so I think after this holiday season, we are going to see lots of closures. So yeah, a massive, very concerning health crisis is upon us. Considering that Ebola is back, for those of you who are keeping score, there's been tons of new massive outbreaks, and the World Health Organizations Not just the WHO, but I mean the World Health Organizations, all of them plural. There's a lot of them that are looking at this, and pretty much all of them predict that the outbreak is not going to stay in South Africa. That it's probably going to be a massive problem. And that's just another massive problem on the fact that on top of the fact that we still never got the COVID under control, right? let's all take a moment and remember the fact that we never actually got COVID under control. It's still an infectious disease. It's still out there and killing people. Things aren't great right now. So Pandemic 2, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah, this is not the sequel we asked for. This is not the sequel we wanted. The reason why I'm bringing this up is as a side tangent. I think that there is some value that we can find at looking at how the Black Panther Party organized medical facilities and organized medical care. And now that I'm thinking about it, it would be interesting to see if there's a component of under Black Flags and windmills. There would, of course, be medical stuff. Never mind. That's another side tangent. Let me not distract too much. I think we all need to start thinking about the solutions for what we are going to do about the fact that we have lots of medical staff who still want to help people but are now not getting paid by hospitals, right? So we have lots of potential and lots of bodies, and those bodies are very educated, very driven, and very capable people, right? So this might be a good thing to have lots of unemployed medical staff. And it's obviously not good that we have unemployed medical staff, but there might be something good that we can do with them or for them, right? We're going to have, but we're also going to have lots of now empty buildings, right? The old buildings that used to have hospitals and other medical staffs, other medical facilities, are not going to disappear, right? Those buildings will still be there. The medical equipment will still exist somewhere. So we should be trying to figure out ways that we can find medical equipment or find these kinds of buildings as they become vacant. If we can have organizations that are prepared to go in and consume them, right? When you have businesses that are trying to cannibalize, right? Because that's what'll happen. Those of you who are familiar with like what Bain Capital does, these companies, there are companies, and their sole existence is to buy up other companies and then to eviscerate and dismantle, cannibalize those companies. And this is what's going to happen with the medical industry, is that Bain Capital and other kinds of cannibalistic companies will start buying up medical properties and medical debt so that they can sell off all the medical equipment and sell off the building for a profit while they leave all of the people with nothing. So it would be helpful if we had some kind of plan for what to do about the situation. We need to develop a new financial apparatus to support these staff. That would be a really good idea. I mean, what if we, seriously, like, what if we made a massive GoFundMe? And we made that GoFundMe an international GoFundMe fund for paying doctors and nurses and the other medical staff that are necessary to keep hospitals running that keep showing up to their job, but now nobody's paying them. Right? What if we had something like that? Or rather than thinking about, because that's a really good way to think about it, Jane, but what if we tried to solve the problem in a different kind of way? Rather, what if we were able to bring to hospitals and other medical facilities the kinds of labor and resources such that they wouldn't need to be paid, right? What if we were able to find food not bombs people, right? That put together soup kitchens and already have the mechanisms and vehicles for feeding lots of people. What if those people started to show up and started to feed the medical staff? Right, and to have caregivers, people who are babysitters and who are trained professionals who are going to volunteer their time to offer free daycare services for the medical staff. Right. What if we could find ways? Yes, communize healthcare. Yes. What if we were able to just liberate them? Right, seize the means of production. If we could just start feeding the medical staff, giving them childcare, I know enough about mechanics. I'll help change your oil because they need stuff. They are going to need stuff, and that's how we give people freedom. That's how we set people free from the system. Is we give them a situation in which they don't need money anymore. If we eradicate people's need for money, capitalism dies. It just goes away. That's why I talk about those 5 pillars all the time in the way that I talk about the 5 pillars, right? If we accomplish all of the things that are on the 5 pillars, people don't need money to live, right? Money just goes away. Capitalism sees itself out. We don't have to go to war with capitalism. We don't even have to end it. We just meet people's material needs and set them free. Capitalism will just go away. I need a task to do so. Well, and there's lots of people right now who are looking for something to do. Looking for a way to contribute, looking for a way to actually make a change in the system. This is a way that we could change the system. And I don't want to monopolize this idea. Please take chatters. Please take this and spread this idea. You clip me and spread me on TikTok or whatever, or just talk about this stuff. We need a solution for the fact that we are about to have hundreds of thousands. Right? Think about the scope of this problem. We're going to have hundreds of thousands of medical staff who are just unemployed, don't have anything to do now, right? And they're going to be looking for something to do, some way that they can reorient their time and energy and efforts to helping people. Because unlike the police, medical staff actually want to help people. They care about helping people and the public and doing their job well, right? If police cared about helping the public and protecting the people in it, they wouldn't be police. Anyways, so I want to watch this video and see what we can learn from the Black Panther Party about this kind of organizing.
Guns, berets, and leather jackets may be the images you associate most with the Black Panther Party. But what you may not know is how the political group shifted healthcare in the U.S. to be more community-based.
Our government was not going to provide healthcare, so we were going to provide healthcare for the people.
The Black Panthers opened free medical facilities, created the very first nationwide screening program for sickle cell anemia, a blood disorder, and they even helped establish a form of acupuncture that's still in use today.
We spent a lot more time serving the people than we did protesting or defending ourselves from the police.
So why isn't the Black Panthers' healthcare activism more widely known? Well, it may be by design.
History is written by the victors. The Black Panthers are not writing the history of the Black Panthers Party.
Hey fam, I'm Imayan, and this Sunday on AJ Plus, we're exploring the Black Panther Party's history, healthcare legacy, and how a covert government program tried to bury it all. To understand what prompted the Black Panthers' foray into healthcare, you first have to understand why it came into existence. Here's how co-founder Huey P. Newton explained the group.
We are bound to transform society and erect a system where people will receive justice.
The Panthers formed on the heels of the Civil Rights Movement, a time when the push for racial equality and equity divided the U.S. 1965 was a pivotal year that helped spark the Panthers' creation, according to former Black Panther Billy Jennings.
You had the murder of Malcolm X in February. Also, you had the signing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and also you had the Watts riot that happened in August of 1965, along with the Selma March in 1965.
Then, in the fall of 1966, a white police officer ran down and killed an unarmed teenager in a historically Black neighborhood in San Francisco. It was a breaking point. The community rioted. The governor declared a state of emergency, and the next day, National Guard soldiers marched with bayonets through the streets. This was the fertile ground in America's landscape that prompted Newton and Bobby Seale to found the Black Panthers Party for Self-Defense in October 1966. The Black Panthers' initial mission was to police the police. Panthers followed patrol vehicles ready to defend their communities with force if they felt the need arose. This is the part of their legacy that the world remembers. But the physical self-defense was a fraction of the Panthers' objectives. As their movement grew, so did their vision. Dr. Tolbert Small was a physician to the Black Panthers, though he wasn't a party member.
They were not just people in black jackets carrying guns. They were interested in actually doing something for the community.
The Black Panthers focused more on what they call survival programs, things like food assistance, free education, free legal aid. And one of their top priorities was free community health care.
Most of our civilized countries will provide these services for the people. The Panthers realized that we didn't have a civilized country. We were not providing these services for the people.
As a young doctor, Small treated political activists like Angela Davis and George Jackson in prison. And when Bobby Seale issued a directive for all chapters to establish free health clinics in 1970, the Black Panther Party turned to Dr. Small to help build the program.
I had all the pharmaceutical companies donating medicines to the George Jackson Free Clinic. I had doctors volunteering, nurses volunteering, med techs volunteering there.
Sheba Haven, who was a member of the Black Panther Party, says the Black Panthers' approach to healthcare was radical.
I think that they had a great impact on medicine in general because they were progressive, not just in the idea that healthcare is a right, but in the way that healthcare is delivered.
The Black Panther Party interceded in places where the U.S. government was seemingly absent, like its nationwide screening program for sickle cell disease. It was a first.
The government was not prioritizing sickle cell anemia for the same reason that Jackie Robinson had to be the first black baseball player in 1948, for the same reason that the black troops were segregated during World War II. There was racism in this country. Sickle cell anemia was a disease that affected mostly black folks.
Sickle cell is the single most common genetic disease in the United States, and the vast majority of patients are African American. It's painful and deadly, and in 1970, the country only allocated less than $100,000 in funding.
It spent $7.8 million on muscular dystrophy, $1.6 million on cystic fibrosis, $8 million to get a man on the moon. And obviously, sickle cell anemia was not a priority.
Then an intriguing thing happened in 1972. John Lennon invited Black Panther members and collaborators to appear on one of the most popular talk shows of the day, The Mike Douglas Show. And they seized the platform to address the problem of sickle cell disease.
We've tested 30,000 people in sickle cell anemia. I think we've tested more than anybody in the country.
And just like that, sickle cell became part of the national conversation. The Panthers used their medical infrastructure to run tests for sickle cell in cities all over the country. So it is objectively true that one of the defining public health initiatives of the early 1970s wasn't launched by the U.S. government, but by an organized group of socialist advocates. The initiative gained so much momentum that President Nixon signed legislation to aid research on finding a cure for the disease. By this point, the Black Panthers had become a major cultural force operating on the international stage. Their philosophy shared common ground with Maoists in China. And as China began to normalize relations with the U.S., they invited Huey P. Newton to visit months before receiving President Nixon. And that visit was a major reason why acupuncture entered the American mainstream.
Acupuncture existed in the Chinese community already, but the Chinese community in America was more insular and more like an enclave. Right? We introduced it to the rest of the world.
The year after Newton visited China, he sent a delegation of 19 people to the country, including Dr. Small.
When they came back from 1972, we started talking about acupuncture more. And
welcome in, Nova Rider. It's good to see you. Hope you're having a great day. Well, we just finished up the conversation. I don't remember what we were talking about. Right. Yeah, we kept talking about exploitation for kind of a long time. The VOD should be up if you want to go back and watch the VOD. Right now we're talking about the problem that we're about to face here in the United States, where all of our hospitals and medical facilities are going to start closing in the wake of the big beautiful bill that Donald Trump got passed, that is going to basically mean that all of those medical facilities no longer get the funding to stay open that they depend on. So we are thinking of ways that we can come up with radical solutions for solving the problem that all of our medical facilities in the United States are about to start closing.
we had people practicing acupuncture on both coasts.
The Black Panthers also helped run the first health clinic to implement 5-point ear acupuncture. That protocol is still used today to treat conditions like drug addiction and post-traumatic stress. So the group had a major influence on healthcare initiatives in the U.S. Why then does it seem like that narrative has been hidden? Why are the Panthers so often associated with this rather than this? It's partly because of controversial FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover and a little program you may have heard of before, COINTELPRO.
Well, one of the things that J. Hoover always talked about was black people being unified, a messiah coming to unify black people, which he was terrified of because he was a racist.
COINTELPRO, or Counterintelligence Program, was a propaganda and surveillance operation that the FBI used to target activists, political groups, and minorities.
COINTELPRO was basically designed to destroy members of the movement that they felt was a threat to the American government and the American way of life.
COINTELPRO's goal was to discredit leaders and divide movements, or as the FBI put it at the time, to pinpoint potential troublemakers and neutralize them.
The power structure did not want to show the survival programs of the Panthers. They wanted to paint them as people who were committing crimes and violence.
Of the 290 operations carried out by COINTELPRO, the Panthers were targets of 245. For those of you that enjoy math, that's more than 84%. Hoover personally instructed 14 different FBI field offices to submit imaginative and hard-hitting counterintelligence measures aimed at crippling the Panthers. They sent death threats, offensive cartoons, and forged letters to different members in an attempt to disrupt and divide the group. Perhaps the most insidious part about COINTELPRO was how effective it was in controlling the narrative around the party.
What the FBI and the government wanted to push, that the Black Panther Party was a black and angry group and that we were anti-white.
So if you want to paint someone as a devil, you're not going to paint them as providing health care, providing free food, taking care of elderly people at the hospital, providing a free ambulance service like we did in North Carolina.
And in a way, it worked. Years of police raids, misinformation, incarceration, and killings not only reduced membership, it left the organization financially crippled and ultimately unable to carry out its social programs. The Black Panther Party was officially disbanded in 1982. Today, many of the same structural inequities that the Black Panthers fought against continue, including access to health care. That's resulted in some devastating statistics for African Americans. In 2017, the American Heart Association said that African Americans have the worst cardiovascular health and more deaths from heart disease than any other group. They also have higher rates of HIV, diabetes, and chronic kidney disease. A 2007 study shows that African Americans are much less likely to trust physicians and the overall healthcare system.
You'll see that the statistics for black folks is vastly inferior to the statistics for white folks. And the Panthers recognize that there's racism in healthcare, and which is why they got involved in trying to provide healthcare for the community.
But the Black Panther Party's legacy lives on. Many Panthers and volunteers with the party have gone on to work long careers in public health and medicine. Even the New York Health Commissioner, Mary Bassett, spent her early career volunteering in the Black Panthers Free Clinic.
The legacy of the Black Panther Party will never be forgotten because those things are embedded within people's families.
Shortly before he was killed by police in 1969, Black Panther Fred Hampton said this.
That you can jail revolutionaries, but you can't jail a revolution. Right.
And that revolution always included a demand for healthcare as a basic human right. Hey fam, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and
Yeah, I thought it was good. I already shared the link for the video. Be sure to like the video if you liked it. I thought I liked it. Didn't quite give me the give me what I was hoping for though. Again, I was hoping for more of insight as to how. But right there in the middle, there was a lot of conversation about the organization and how as soon as they started, right here, as soon as they started to get the programs going, they had an influx of doctors, volunteers, nurses, volunteers, med techs volunteering, because these are people who actually want to help, right? Medical people join the medical field so that they can help make people's lives better. That's why you sign up for it. That's why you do it. And it turns out that even if you don't provide a medical incentive, some of those people will still do the thing, especially if you're taking care of their needs, because that's one of the things that I was hoping that this video would talk about that it didn't, was that the Black Panthers set up, when they would liberate, quote unquote, a neighborhood, it included initiatives for feeding everybody and for making sure that everybody had adequate housing, that everybody was housed safely, and you know, there was a real care for community, right? That they took care of the people's basic needs first. You know, and then once the basic needs were out of the way, then they would set up schools and clinics and other things that they would that the community would need. But they would eradicate their needs first, right? The basic needs, feed and house them, and get rid of the basics, take care of the basics. And I think that there is some value to this, this perspective and this idea. But this is all an aside. A reminder that we were having a big, long, full circle conversation, and that there was an aside. So the reason why it was an appropriate place to put this aside is because there's lots of ways that we can look to organizations like the Black Panthers, and we can take from them some of the successes that they had. But we should also be very real about their limitations and their failures. We've talked at length already on this channel about the fact that Black Panther was notorious for being sexist and for having anti-trans values and anti-gay values, and that it was an environment where not everyone felt valued, and not everyone felt like they could voice their concerns or voice their dissent. That there was a lot of emphasis on the need for solidarity And sometimes that emphasis for the need for solidarity overrode or superseded other people's concerns about bigotry or sexism or sometimes sexual abuse that was going on. So we need to be sure that in our organizing and our advocacy that we are not treating members as though they are disposable. Because that's what we're trying to fight against, is a society that treats people like they're disposable. And if we treat people like they're disposable, then we're just recreating those imbalances. TLDR, meeting people's needs without needing a state apparatus. Yes, that is the TLDR for the Black Panther party in general, was that they were meeting the needs of the people without a state apparatus. And it's not true solidarity. And that's one of the main thrusts of Kayamatara's recent article, was that it's not real solidarity, and it's not real truth. It's not real power. It's not real organizing. All of the things that you are hoping that you're going to accomplish, none of them. All of the opposite, actually, in fact. When you don't allow the antithesis, when you don't allow room for dissent and for real conversation and real pushback against the status quo, whatever that is, right? And it's really easy to get locked into in-group, out-group dynamics. Right? And on the left, I think that this is a large part of our problem, is we see that the state is violent, and we believe, because we are opposing the state, that we can do whatever we want to. Right? That we don't have to be concerned about the means, or we don't have to be concerned about the principles, because as long as we're opposing the evil state, then we're the good people. Right? But that still is dogmatic, and it's still not a material analysis, and it's still failing to be responsible, and it's still going to recreate ableist, sexist, racist systems. Pretty much necessarily, actually. So, in that vein, let's go back to critiquing. Right, so we're going to talk about the Black Panthers a little bit more. A Black Panther woman speaks about feminism. I haven't listened to this, so I'm hoping that this is going to be helpful, and it's going to be on topic and on theme. I might have whiffed when I picked this video, because again, I haven't watched it yet, so I'm not sure what all the content is about, but from watching the first few minutes, or a minute or so, it seemed like this was going to go the right direction, and be the kind of critique I'm looking for. So hopefully it is, and if not, then oh well, we'll do something else.
I was attracted to the Panthers because they were speaking the language I needed to speak at that moment in time, as was Malcolm X, as was Stokely Carmichael, i.e. a radical language, not about turning the other cheek. If somebody wants to knock me about on the basis of the color of my skin, I am not going to turn the other cheek. I've never been a turn the other cheek kind of person. I've always, you want to slap me? I'll whoop you down.
We must continue to delve deeper into the philosophy of nonviolent resistance. That is something about this method that has power. It has morality with it, because it gives us the opportunity to work to secure moral ends through moral means.
The nonviolent structure didn't appeal to us. We never denounced it. Doesn't mean other people shouldn't do it. It's just it doesn't appeal to us because it this is how Stokely Carmichael put it, it depends on the white man having a conscience. You have to believe that there's a conscience in your oppressor for nonviolence to work.
Well, I think the country made a mistake when they killed Dr. King. It would have been far better if they'd killed Rap Brown or myself, because then they could say to black people that we're preaching guns, and he who preaches or who lives by the sword will die by the sword. But they couldn't do that for Dr. King, because he preached love. And there is no possible way for them to make an excuse of Dr. King's killing. So when they killed Dr. King, they just opened up the eyes of a lot of black people.
If I put it in, I think I put it in. Now I took it out, I think.
In New York at this time, there is Panthers reunited. So Panthers from all over the world, from Australia, from the UK, from Israel, from India, have got together to remember our time back in the day.
People who, when they were young, were Panthers, were revolutionaries, were in this moment, who had the same dreams, had the similar understanding, and the energy that we could band together and we can change this. That's what's so exciting. Now we're grandparents.
No, I don't think that this is going to go where I was hoping it was going to go.
Angela, thank you so much for...
This was the backup that I was going to go with. I was hoping that I wasn't going to have to pull this one out because it's so long. But, I mean, it's Angela Davis, so we know it's going to be good. And I'm pretty sure that I've seen this one before, if not that I've seen similar ones from her critiquing, and I think she's going to give us the analysis that we were looking for. Let's try again.
Doing this interview, there's a lot of nostalgia swirling around about 1968. What is your most nostalgic moment? What was the high point for you of that year?
Well, I like to think that I'm not so much influenced by nostalgia, but I think historical memory is important.
But everyone has a bit of nostalgia, even you, surely.
Well, that's probably true. 1968 was probably the year in which more happened in my political life than any other year I have lived, and I've lived many, many years, of course. You know, I'm thinking about the fact that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. I was involved in an organization called SNCC. At that particular time, I had been involved in the Black Panther Party that same year. And later that same year, I joined the Communist Party, so that there were major shifts in my own political life. But of course, everyone associates the student uprisings in Paris, and of course the largest general strike probably in the history of capitalism that happened in May 1968. But there were also uprisings happening in black communities throughout the country in response to the assassination of Dr. King. 1968 is an important year for me because it's the year during which, or the time during which, an emergent feminist consciousness, not so much gender separate from other issues, but an emerging consciousness of the interconnectedness of racism and capitalism and sexism, of course.
And do you think 50 years later, uncannily, we might be living through another such moment? Me Too, Black Lives Matter, you know,
of course,
left-wing and right-wing politics, you know, one could argue at the extremes competing with each other.
Well, of course it's interesting. History never replicates itself, but I think that what we are witnessing today
are some of the fruits of the struggles that are associated with 1968. Certainly the emergence of a worldwide feminist movement, the women's resistance to the election of Donald Trump and all that that has meant, and creating a kind of global solidarity against the Trump administration and the militarism and the racism that it entails.
Is it the fruits of what you were trying to do in 1968, or is it an indication that what you were trying to do hadn't come to fruition, hadn't actually reached a conclusion, was unfinished business?
Well, I think we've learned a great deal since 1968. In 1968, many of us who were involved in radical movements really believed that the revolution was around the corner. And of course, there were major shifts happening all over the world. The African liberation movement, the Cuban Revolution, the Vietnam War. We were convinced that the world was going to change, and we were going to be a part of an anti-capitalist, anti-racist revolution. Our awareness of gender was not as complex as it could have been, as it should have been, as it is now. So I think today we are witnessing a certain continuity between the consciousness of the 1960s, 1968. But this is a period in which certainly women are on the rise, and that's very exciting because women were pretty much in the background in 1968, with the exception of a few individuals and a few movements.
I've spoken to quite a few members of Black Lives Matter and also the Me Too movement who said, actually...
So yeah, I think that is a really good point that Angela Davis is bringing up here. And it's also going to be the case, I hope anyway, that there will be less white people showing up to co-opt movements. And this isn't something I've talked about much, but there was some deliberate initiative by COINTELPRO to send out white people to black organizations to infiltrate for various reasons or whatever. But a lot of what I've heard about organizing from this time is that there were so many instances of white people stepping in and meaning well, that they wanted to help, but rather than helping, they took over. And because they have so much relative power and so much relative privilege, they felt entitled to do so, and there were enough mechanisms around them that they were able to do that. And when the white people would co-opt the movement, all of the grassroots non-white people leave, right? They don't want to be a part of it anymore. They become alienated. They get pushed to the sidelines, and they don't get their ideas considered as well. So I think that this is a pretty good point. I wonder how much of it's just hopium, right? But I hope that this is that she's right about this.
Really, very little has changed since 1968. The clock stopped, moving forwards for us. That's why we have to go through this struggle again. Do you think they're right, or is that too negative a view?
Well, in a sense, very little has changed. It's interesting. I was reflecting on the fact that when I learned about the assassination of Martin Luther King, I was in the process of printing a poster about a young black man who had been killed by the police in Los Angeles.
The Trayvon Martin of 1968.
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So in that sense, little has changed.
Has it got worse, perhaps?
I don't know whether it's gotten worse. I think our consciousness has grown, and there's been more media. And
yes, yes, yes. It is not the case that things are getting worse. It is the case that more people are becoming more aware, and more people are paying attention. More people are able to take account. Right, we have cell phones. Right, so a lot of what was going on in the original civil rights movement. Keep in mind that for the vast majority of the public, their exposure to the civil rights struggle was in the news. What was reported in the newspapers and on radio. And what was being reported by racist people who were trying to maintain a system of white supremacy. So, you know, now that we have people recording, and we can see the events firsthand, and people get to make decisions for themselves rather than it being spun by the media first, right? These kinds of things do have a pretty important shift in how we see and understand the things. So I don't know that racism, for example, to use one metric, has gotten any worse or any better. I think that we as a society are only now finally getting better at talking about it. A little bit.
Social media attention to what has been going on since the era of the immediate aftermath of slavery. But what I think has changed is the understandings, the consciousness, and I think that feminism has a lot to do with this. And when I say feminism, I'm not speaking of mainstream feminism. I'm not speaking of the feminism that has been represented by figures like Hillary Clinton. I'm talking about a feminism from below, a feminism that has been generated by women of color, black women, Latina women, Muslim women, Native American women, one that emphasizes the interconnections of all social justice struggles, and the fact that one cannot consider gender aside from race and class.
So you have this interconnectivity, and then at the same time you have a president of the United States, democratically elected, who is openly misogynist. Some would accuse him of being racist as well, although these, of course, are all charges that he denies. But that tells you something, doesn't it? That on one hand you have this consciousness that's moved in one direction. On the other hand, you have half of society saying, we reject that.
Well, it's not half. And I don't think Trump was democratically elected. The majority of people who...
Well, he won the Electoral College. I mean, by the rules...
Yes, but when one considers that the Electoral College is an institution rooted in slavery that was designed during the era of slavery to guarantee to slaveholders and to states with a small white population and a large slave population the kind of federal leverage they wanted. So,
but even allowing for that, I mean, and the Electoral College is a strange anomaly, and Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by a whopping 3 million. Even allowing for that, the fact that Trump is president of the United States of America with the views that he holds, that he's proud of in public, is astonishing, is it not?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We all continue to be incredulous that someone like Donald Trump can occupy the highest office of,
but what does that tell you about
land.
American society, that this has happened?
Well, I do not believe that he represents, his administration, his ideology, his strategies represent the will of the majority of the people. We have to consider that relatively few people actually go to the polls, not even half of all of the people in the U.S. And so many people did not vote because they didn't see a significant choice between the two candidates. So the election of Trump is the product of a crisis in the electoral system and in a sense of a defunct two-party system. Had there been another party that was not tied to the capitalist corporations, that does not have all of the baggage that the Democratic Party has, then perhaps the results of the election would have been different. I think it's important to think broadly and not.
Yeah, I mean, as wise as Angela Davis is, and as productive and relevant as all of this, everything she has to say seems to be, it's also not what I was looking for. I was looking for a critique of the Black Panther Party, but we're not going to get that in a quick, easy video unless I go and find one, right? I have to find one that's specifically on that. And I just didn't have the time to do that before stream today. So we'll do that some other time. But rather than continuing on that that strain, let's just switch and get back onto track, because this is really where I wanted to get to anyway. No, it's not. It's this. That's the one. I pushed the wrong button. Okay, there we go. Now I understand what's going on. Okay, and this is something that Matt put in Discord. I'll, of course, drop the link in chat for everyone again so that everyone's got it. But this is something that Matt put in the Discord before, and I hadn't had a chance to talk about it, really. And now's the time. I think that this is really quite relevant with the conversation that we're having ongoing, and I think is really the right direction for us to be thinking about these things going forward. Yeah, I should have just went to this instead of trying to find that other. Anyways.
What you think about disability. I know that in our society we think disability only impacts disabled people, but I need you to reframe it, okay? Here's the phrase I want you to internalize, right? Bigotry is the goal, ableism and eugenics is the toolkit, right? When we think about disability, a lot of people think, oh, well,
Just real quick, what was the message that Jane put in earlier? About fascism, but that's it. That's it. This is that. This is exactly that. I'm gonna back it up.
Ableism and eugenics is the toolkit, right? Disability only impacts disabled people, but I need you to reframe it, okay? Here's the phrase I want you to internalize, right? Bigotry is the goal, ableism and eugenics is the toolkit, right?
Bigotry is always the goal. And they will use all kinds of different tools in their toolkit. But it's always,
disability. A lot of people think, oh, well, it'll be disabled people and then us. Like, they're coming after disabled people and then us. Or they think everybody's going to eventually experience disability, which is also true. But what I want you all to completely absorb from the bottom of my heart is this. If they want to disable you, they will. Either physically, mentally, or rhetorically. And rhetorically is the part we're talking about right now, which means that most marginalizations, race, gender, sexuality, are aided and abetted by the very same language we use to describe disabled people. I want you to listen closely. Very, very closely. The next time they're talking about women, or trans people, or queer people, or black people, I want you to listen closely. And I want you to ask yourself, if they're just describing stereotypes along the bigotry in which they're talking, right? So like women aren't competent in the workforce, or that trans people are really just mentally ill, right? And I want you to ask yourself, as you're hearing them describe their own bigotry, right? Are they describing just this marginalization to a disability? Because that's where the disconnect comes from. You all, not you, but like the vast majority of the public thinks that when we're talking about disability, we're only talking about disabled people. But a majority of the laws, the policies, and even the ideas around disability are attached to everyone that they want to eradicate. And that's what you all need to absorb a lot faster than you are.
Think, for example, when I first started talking about, God, this has been months ago. There were new bills that were getting passed about transgenderism, and the bills would purport to not make claims about the science, quote unquote. But then I would point to places where the bills would reference science, would reference scientific studies and scientific data, thereby establishing science for legitimizing those laws and those bills. Right? They control the narrative. They control the system of values. Welcome in, Matt. Good to see you. Do you know what's happening in Norwegian redlining against us Sami? No. Do you have an article or a news something about that Nova writer that you can share with me? On that note, actually, Nova writer, while I've got you, I've started to do a little bit of a preliminary research on where to go or how to go about finding information. There's some good information on Sami belief systems, and I was wondering if I could send these links to you, Nova Writer. If you could look these links over and tell me if they're full of bullshit or if they seem like stream not connecting. Damn, if they seem like they're okay, is what I was trying to say. We might need to leave end stream soon then. Welcome in, Matt. I'm leaving. But actually that's when I got up, when I walked away from the keyboard a minute ago, it's because somebody showed up and is expecting me to show up somewhere else soon, even though nobody told me there was plans or an event or anything that anyone was expecting. But so I'm gonna have to leave soon anyway. I guess that works out. Not that I want to leave. I'm not done talking, but we'll be okay. That's what I need to call. Yeah, so this is one of the links, Nova Writer, that I was hoping you could look over for me. Yeah. Copy. And hopefully I'm not disconnected. It says that I'm dropping frames, but I still should have some connection. All right. So these are some of the things that I've done, just real quick preliminary, trying to pull some resources together so that I have some more information about what we're talking about, rather than, because really I have almost no knowledge about your people at all. So any information, if you could look over these links and tell me if they're the links. Oh, they're not showing up here again. Has this been, no, this used to have text. When did this disappear? Oh, there it is. Okay. It was me. I pushed the button. But yeah, these links, if you could check out these links, Nova Writer, and just get back to me, either on Discord the next time I'm streaming, whatever, however you want to get back in touch with me, and see if those sources are good, valuable sources that I can trust, or if I should be suspicious about them. This one is from like an official university, University of Texas in the United States. Oh no, I sent the links. I put the links in the chat. Or are they not showing up? You can't read them. You can't read the links. Yeah, because that's itty bitty tiny. You're not going to be able to read that. I guess I could zoom in. No, that's not helping. Yeah, and that's also, that text is really tiny. But yeah, I've put the links here in the chat. So, and I know that you're busy. You're a student. You got other stuff going on. So there's no hurry. There's no rush. It's just, it occurred to me that I would like to know more information about the Sami people and about the philosophies. So I just wanted to make sure I was pointed in the right direction. All right, but as I mentioned, the interruption that I had just a moment ago was you can't write or read? Huh. Do you use text to speech then for typing in chat? Is that what it is? And if that's okay, if that's the case, don't worry about it, Nova Writer. I'll reach out. I'll find somebody else that I can vet the sources. And really, I'll just start reading. I need to start reading and finding out who the authors are, and if okay, that makes sense then. So don't worry about it. I'm sorry that I put you on the spot, Nova Writer. And I'm sorry I've asked of you something that you can't do. And I appreciate it anyway, no worries. But I figured you would be interested in, I'm just now starting to put some sources together so that I can, be a little bit more knowledgeable about, your people's way of life. But, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Like I said, I've got somewhere that I'm supposed to be in a little bit. That I'm expected to be soon. So, I'm going to probably leave the title the same for the next stream, or if I change it, I won't change it much. I think I'm going to want to carry on this conversation. There's no less than at least another 2 hours that I'm looking at the stuff that I had already planned to talk about. Some of the stuff that I've already talked about took longer than I anticipated. So, hey, welcome in, Street Cat Love. It's great to see you. And Vitingale is raiding in with a party of 9. Oh my goodness, Vitingale, it's so good to see you. Welcome in, Raiders. I hope you're all doing well. Everybody, if you're not already following Vitingale, please go follow them. They are based and awesome, and they put on a fantastic show. If you've never seen their stream, it is just top-tier entertainment from beginning to end. They are pretty awesome. If any of you Raiders are not familiar with me, I'm waxing_philosophical. I talk about philosophy and leftist ideas and try to marry those as best as I possibly can. We try to talk about the theory, but also the praxis, right? Getting out there and actually doing stuff to help others in the world and to do the direct action and to build community. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're usually on about here. So good. Welcome in. I was actually just getting ready to wrap up my stream though. So you guys raided in at kind of a bad time. Usually I'm mid-rant, where I've got my fists in the air and I'm talking about how we get the revolution going and backing that up with theory. but you guys came in kind of at the end of stream, so but it's so good to see you, Vitingale. Thank you for bringing your raid here. Thank you for trusting me with your community, and it's always a pleasure to see you. I appreciate seeing you everywhere that we get to see you. Don't trust everything you see. A lot of information has been censored by the Norwegian government. That's why I was asking you about it, Nova Rider. But that's right. When I start talking about it, I'll talk about I'll start talking about stuff that I learn about the Sami people, and then Nova Rider, if you can correct me and make sure I'm not perpetuating any of the Norwegian government's propaganda to erase your people, and that's something that I'll wait until you have time, right? I'll coordinate with you when you can sit down and we can make sure that that we go through all the information well. Yeah, but the information you have been given by the government, so don't trust it. Cool. Thank you. That's helpful already, Nova Rider. You're fantastic. But you cannot trust the government. We were just watching a video that was talking about the Victor tells the story of the Victor tells a story, and that's why we don't get a good picture of the Black Panther Party, right? Is because they were not victorious. The government was able to successfully. Well, no, I've got to go right now, Nova Rider. Like I said, I've got to go get ready for something. I'm supposed to meet up with some people in a little bit, so I've got to run. Thank you again for the raid. I hate to get a raid and then just raid on out, but I've got to go. I've got somewhere that I need to get ready to go to. So I'm gonna find a good raid target for us. Does anybody have good suggestions for a good raid target? Though I'm pretty sure. Did we get it? Yay! We did get the raid going. Sebsdev? Is Sebsdev in here? Is Sebsdev streaming? I did not realize that they were streaming. Oh man, I've got the stream going for Peacefire Now. So yeah, Peacefire Now. I'm gonna go to Peacefire Now. That's awesome that Sebs is live too. I might pop over there a little bit later and say hi to Sebs. I gotta go, so I really can't do it now. But I'll say Sebs is also based and awesome. For those of you who are not familiar, go follow Sebs. They're pretty awesome too. But anyways, I thank you so much for everybody that was here. Thank you for all of the fantastic contributions in chat. Jane, you are really keeping me on my toes and keeping me going and really helping me push the stream along. Kaimatara, you've given me so much amazing content and helped me really rethink about some of my perspectives. Matt, I appreciate you hanging out and talking and doing some of the raid stuff. Street Cat Love, everyone go follow Street Cat Love. They're also super base and awesome. Thank you everyone for being here. I hope you have a fantastic day.